Hi, I'm Sarah Bargigian and welcome to your Yin Yoga class with me today. I've called this class Slow, Steady, Melt. We have a 2-minute timer here, so most of the poses we're going to be holding for 2 minutes, and in the nature of Yin we're going to be sitting or lying down on the floor, no standing poses, and you're going to need quite a few props. A couple of blocks. If you happen to have a bolster, go and get that. If you don't, then 2-3 blocks and at least 2 folded blankets, because you're going to start quite well supported in each pose, and because of the slow steady melt I'm going to give you options about half a minute through in each pose to melt it down even further, and maybe even further as you continue on, depending on how you're responding to the poses. Please do remember to subscribe and give this class the thumbs up, and please do leave any comments that you have at the end of the class. I'd love to know if you have any questions or any insights and how it all went for you. And I would be very grateful if you would become a patron. From only $3 a month, you can give me so much more support, and then you get a lot of benefits being a patron as well. So have a look at all of those details in the link below. We're going to begin in a twist. All you're going to need in this first Yin pose is a blanket. Make sure you've got lots of space around you. You haven't got the wall too close to you, and also that you're dressed for some warmth. I don't want you to get too cold here. So I've got some warm trousers on and a top nearby just in case you need that. So this blanket is going to be a prop for the head. So I want you please to come to hands and knees. And widen your knees further apart than you normally do when you come into child's pose. Slowly sink down onto your heels. And then reach your right arm out to the side, straight, slide it out to the side, and then turn your head away from it. Turn your head towards the left, bring the right side of your head to the floor. Now you can stay with your left hand pressing down onto the floor here, or pick your left hand up, turn the thumb to the back of the room and bring your hand around. You can even lift your chest up a little bit here so that you can tuck your hand around the inner right thigh. You don't have to do this. You can keep your left hand on the floor where you can see it, or you stay like this. Now I'm going to set the 2-minute timer here. And in the nature of Yin, I want you to try and be very still, not to fidget. I've outstretched my right arm straight here and I'm pressing my palm down, but now I'm going to let that ease somewhat. Slightly bend the elbow. I have my elbow off the floor, but by bending the joint, the elbow joint, and even letting my fingerprints slide up a little bit so that the fingers bend, it's a little bit more of a Yin action here. And you can turn your belly and chest a little bit more to the left here so that you can bring your left hand down a little bit more inside the right thigh, and that will help to increase the twist. But don't increase it too much because you've got more than another minute here. The duration of time is going to deepen the twist, deepen the stretching and the compressing around your spine, the compressing of the hips. Your knees and your ankles are very much involved in this as well. If you want, close your eyes. If you find closing your eyes makes your mind wander, then just keep them slightly open and keep your gaze soft and still on one point. Let your breathing here be a little bit longer, each inhale and exhale, slightly more drawn out than your normal breath, and smoothed as best you can. You've got about 20 more seconds here. Maybe turn a little bit more, or maybe not. Try and be with what is and have equal weight on the left and the right shin. Now if you've got your left hand tucked around the right thigh, let it slide away here now and bring your left hand to the floor. Pick up your head, push the left hand down, slide the right hand back. It's often when you come out of the pose that you realise that the depth that it was. Bring the right hand to the floor, stretch the left hand out. If you've got a wall in the way, then just move a little bit to the right. Rearrange your legs so that they're as they were. Turn your head and your chest to the left. And then again, you have the option to keep your right hand down or pick it up. Turn the thumb down, pick your head up again, and bring that right hand around. If you're right-handed, you might find that this is not as easy as it was on the left side. But if you did it on the left side, do try and do it on the right as well. And then again, close your eyes. 2 minutes from here. Come back to your breathing. Slightly bend the left elbow and draw in the fingerprints of your left hand. Make sure you've placed your head well as well. You haven't rested your weight on your temple or completely on the back of your head. Try and make sure that it's right on the side of your head so that you have a lot of support. And you can really let your neck release. So in yin, we're trying to soften down as much as we can. Try and let your lower back loosen. Maybe turn the chest a little bit more, drawing the left ribs towards your right knee and the right ribs back. But then don't keep on trying to turn. Bring a softness all around your body as much as you can, including into your feet, both hands, your hips, your legs. Keep your gaze again, just softly resting on one point or just one area on the floor ahead of you. And the breath smooth and calm. Again, about 20 seconds left here. Maybe turn a touch more. In yin, we're trying to release and soften and let go. Let go of muscle tightness. Let go of muscle tone even. No squeezing, just letting the muscles take a back seat here so that the deep inner fascia tissues around the joints get the opportunity to be compressed and lengthened and twisted. Okay, and then from here, coming out, let the right hand slide down and across the back and bring the right hand to the floor if it was there. Push your hands down and bring your head up off the floor and your chest. Now we're going to come into a wide-legged seated pose. I want you to sit on one of your blankets and get all of your other props. We're going to lie over the right leg first. So from here, stretch your legs out. Make sure that you're sitting right on the front of your blanket, so your sitting bones are just being tipped forward. And if you have a bolster, bring it inside your right leg. If you don't have a bolster, then build up the blocks and put blankets over to soften them, so that I'm just going to put one more blanket on. I want you to have quite a high prop here so that you can slowly melt down and have the opportunity to perhaps take one of the props away about a minute into the pose. So your right leg is propped up inside, left leg out here as well. Now soften the legs. Don't have the legs too wide. If anything, about 80% to what you could do. And then twist towards your right foot and then lift your chest, lengthen the front body, and then drape yourself over your prop. Now, if you find that the prop isn't high enough, You can put a block underneath the blanket so that you've got something for your head to rest on. Make sure that your arms are supported. Bend your elbows. I quite like to turn my palms up here so that my fingerprints aren't touching anything. Let your entire body soften and drop. I've got the timer going here, so again 2 minutes. Not such a long time when it comes to yin yoga, but this is a short practice. Relax your legs as much as you can. And let the left ribs drop down and the right ribs slightly lift up. Now, if you're not feeling much of a tugging and lengthening going on in the left lower back, you could maybe here take a prop away. Lengthen your chest towards the right foot and then come back down again. I want you to feel some tugging and lengthening going on in the left side of your waist. Remember, this is yin yoga, it's not restorative yoga. You're not being completely propped up and supported to relax. In yin, we're pulling and tugging, really aiming at the deep fascia, connective tissue, into the joints. Even the cartilages and the bones are getting compressed, lengthened, pulled at. So it's not comfortable. It's not a pose where you could potentially fall asleep in. If it is, then you're propping up too much. Keep your breathing steady and even. And again, if you feel like you could melt down a little bit more, feel free to lower the props, and don't feel like you have to lower the props. You may be feeling some tugging going on the back of that right leg. If it's too much, you could put a rolled up towel underneath the back of the knee. You could even higher the props. Make sure that you're feeling slightly uncomfortable. There's tugging and pulling going on. You can feel that there's stretching, but it's not painful. It's manageable. You can breathe through it. Okay, it's 2 minutes. So from here, bring your hands underneath your shoulders, push yourself up slowly, and then move all the props towards the left leg. Okay, if you feel like you need to rearrange your seat, do that. You might even want to move the blanket away from underneath the left sitting bone. Play around with that. Then twist towards your left foot, relax your feet, bring your hands to the floor, lengthen up. I'm going to pull the bolster in a little bit closer here. And I started with the block up underneath the blanket on that side, so I'm going to do it again on this side. You do the same if you did that. Lengthen, lift the chest, and then drape yourself over. Rest the weight of your head, the entire weight of your head. Let your feet relax, your legs. Remember in Hatha Yoga or Vinyasa, terms that we give the flowing yoga, Vinyasa and Hatha, where we tend to be working more on the alignment in poses, we're often squeezing muscle to bone. In Yin, we're not doing that. Trying to let the muscles just soften and let go and rest. And in this more meditative approach to yoga, you have the opportunity to think about your breathing more. Maybe here you could put a little bit more length into your exhalations. So you feel like you're breathing in to the count of 4 and breathing out to the count of 5. If you want, you can lower a prop here. So again, you're melting down that little bit more. We'll just keep the prop, particularly if you're worried about any injuries that you might have. Let the right sitting bone drop down to the floor. The right side of your pelvis will be slightly lifted, but try and let it soften so that the right lower back can lengthen and melt towards the ground. Let your shoulders soften. Let your forearms be held. Your fingers be loosely curled. If you prefer, you can even turn your palms up. Soften the features of your face. And really let yourself be. Yin Yoga gives you the opportunity to put away this habit that we have of being productive, of ticking off the to-do list. And training ourselves here to soften and let go. Try and keep that breathing in for 4, breathing out for 5. And then coming out of here, bring the palms of your hands underneath your shoulders, push yourself up. Take your time. And then move your props way off your mat. The next pose we're going to do is Pigeon Prep. And you're going to have the opportunity to put a blanket or a couple of blocks underneath your right sitting bone as you come into this pose. So have a couple of blocks and a blanket on the right hand side of your mat and come very briefly into downward facing dog. So index fingers pointing straight ahead or slightly away from each other, press back. So doing a yang pose here, squeeze your legs, squeeze the muscle to bone, push your hands forward. Then bring your right knee behind your right wrist. Bring the left knee down to the floor and the left toenails down to the floor, and move the left foot a little bit out to the left. So it might even be slightly off the mat. Now, I want you to try and have the back, the lower back, the sacrum, more or less parallel to the floor here. So don't be tempted to bring your right sitting bones straight down to the floor here. I want it to be slightly propped up in a soft way. So if you're up quite high here, put the block underneath the right sitting bone and maybe even soften it also with a blanket. If you don't need such height, you might even need 2 blocks actually, but if you don't need so much height, then you can take away both blocks and have some support. And the closer in towards you, the higher the support is going to be. And then rest your head on the backs of your hands or on your bolster or on another blanket. I just quite like to use my hands here. I've got used to doing that. And even reach around with one hand before we come completely into the pose and into stillness, and feel if your sacrum is nice and level. And if you feel like you're tipping over to one side or the other, then you're either going to need to prop up a little bit more or take a prop away. And make sure that you really are feeling some good tugging here that's not painful, that your outer hip is really being lengthened, and you're going to feel it in the knee and the ankle as well. So 2 minutes from now, make sure that your arms, your hands, your wrists, your fingers, everything are as relaxed as possible in your upper body, shoulders included. And then be still. Option to close your eyes. Make sure you've lengthened your chest towards the front of your mat, so you're not rounding your spine
too much here. You feel like you've got a nice long back. And then again, breathe in for 4, breathe out for 5. Even send your breath into wherever you're feeling the most obvious tugging, pulling sensations or compressions. Each inhalation is being directed to where you feel you're being most challenged in your body. And that can change from moment to moment. Try and keep it still on one point for at least 3 to 5 breaths. And then if that challenge dissipates, then move the direction of your breathing to another place that's calling to you, where the interesting sensations are going on. About 20 more seconds here. I'm checking the timer, don't worry. Breathe in for 4, breathe out for 5. Okay, now, sometimes 2 minutes doesn't feel like very long, right? Sometimes it feels very long. So that's 2 minutes. How did that feel for you? Come into downward facing dog slowly. Lift your head, press your hands down, tuck your left toes under so that you can pick up your right leg and slowly step it back. Move your props over to the left. Use your right hand to move them over. Stretch back. Notice how you feel here in this down dog. Make it a wide-footed one. How's the left leg? How's the right leg? How are the hips? Let's do the other side. So from here, bring the left knee just behind the left wrist. Left toenails on the floor. Right knee goes back. Right foot a little out to the right, more than you would do in a normal pigeon pose. Prop up underneath that left sitting bone. Remember, you've got blocks, blankets. Try and have something that's soft directly in contact with the left sitting bone so that you've got a little bit of yield down there. So you can melt down that touch more. And as you come forward, bring the other hand on top. Lengthen your spine, so push the crown of your head forwards. So your chest and the side body also comes forward. And come into the second side. And again, reach around to measure that the lower back is nice and plain, like a tabletop, where nothing would slip off to the left or the right. And then let go. Start as you did before, by being aware of what's going on with your hands, forearms, shoulders, and the placement of your head. Try and find a position that you can then not move. Remember, yin is also about stillness, acceptance. Then bring your awareness down your back, your torso. Soften your abdominal muscles. The left leg here, try and relax it as much as you can. The knee is being pulled on the outside. Make sure that that feels okay. If it feels painful, prop yourself up more. You can even come completely out of the pose and come back again into child's pose if you prefer. The knees are delicate. We must be gentle with them. Soften down the right leg to the right foot. And bring your awareness back again to kind of the main target of this pose, the left hip. And let it be as soft and relaxed as you can make it. Particularly the gluteus maximus, minimus, all the muscles on the outside around that left buttock. Let them really soften so that the deep inner tissues get the opportunity to be pulled, tugged, lengthened, compressed, without the muscles taking over. Okay, and from here, one more downward facing dog. Slowly does it. Give your body time to adapt. I feel like quite an old lady when I come out of a yin pose. Don't hurry it. Push your hands forward when you're ready. Let your head hang. Squeeze your legs. Lift up both of your sitting bones that touch more. Okay, then bring both of your knees down to the floor. I'm going to come into a low lunge. It's called dragon pose sometimes in yin. So from here, you're going to have your right foot forward and then your hands on props inside the right foot. I'm just going to change sides here so that you can see what I mean. I'm going to bring my blocks inside the right foot like this and then place my hands on the blocks. So you do this. And the right toenails, sorry, the left toenails are on the floor. And you can be back a little bit here if you're a little bit tighter in the hips, possibly a little bit more. And the slow melt is going to be given to you in stages where you can possibly get rid of the blocks. So come into this. Make sure that your right toes are pointing straight ahead. Look softly down. Soften around your whole pelvic area as much as you can. And then maybe bend the right knee a little bit more so that your pelvis is moving a little bit more forward and you're increasing the stretch on the front of the left hip and the left hip flexor. If that's going okay, then possibly here you can get rid of the inner block, maybe even the outer block, so no blocks. Or both blocks can stay there. If that's going okay, you might find that you can bring your left forearm to the floor, but maybe not. So it's an opportunity to possibly think about. You also here can turn the right foot a little bit out to the right, the toes slightly turning out, kind of 2 o'clock-ish. But do make sure that you're not completely leaning over your pelvis over to the left here in compensation for the depth of the pose. So if you find you really have leant over, like I'm exaggerating now, then come up again. Because I want you to try and have both hip points, the left and the right side, pointing pretty much straight ahead, and the pelvis in straight alignment rather than veering over to the left. So come into the depth of the pose that suits you. And then maybe just be with this. Perhaps don't come down anymore. Unless you know this pose well and you can bring the left elbow down as well without moving your body over to the left. Try and be still. Try not to fidget too much here. Stay here for about 20 more seconds. Soften your shoulders, your gaze. And then come back into downward facing dog. So push your hands down, step your right knee back, slowly tuck your toes under, pick up your knees and press back. So you're back in symmetry. Let's do the other side. So from here, step your left foot forward, bring your right knee down. Take your time because you're doing very much the opposite range of motion here as you change from right side to left side. Start with both blocks, unless you really know this pose. I like to start very much conservatively, especially if I'm holding yin for a long time. 2 minutes is not very long. So it's possibly a little bit rushed here even. So from here, again, possibly take one block away, whichever one you feel is the
the right one to take away. Maybe another one as well. Stay with your elbows straight if you want to, as you move your pelvis forward a little bit more. So you're bringing the right hip point straight north. Stay with this, or bring the right elbow down. And again, you can stay with this, possibly bring the left elbow down. Maybe even if you want, you can turn the left foot a little bit out to the left, kind of to 11 o'clock. But in this dragon pose, don't bring the foot way out towards the left. Soften your shoulders, your gaze, your face. If you want, you can even put a block underneath your forehead. And then just try and be with this. Your fingers loosely curled. Relax as much as you can. With something under your forehead, you can really let the neck go. But if your head is high up, then just let your head hang. Maybe turn it once or twice to the left or the right if you feel it's painful. Otherwise, just try and be with what is. And let the back foot be soft. The entire back leg. Breathe in for 4, breathe out for 5. About half a minute more here. We're holding each side in this pose a little longer than 2 minutes. Try and have your weight on the right leg and the left leg as evenly placed as possible. So again, you don't want to lean over to the right here. Try and keep your center of gravity pretty much central. And then again, slowly, slowly make your way out. Press your hands down. Slowly move your pelvis back. Step that left foot back. Both knees on the floor. Then tuck your toes under and go into downward facing dog. Then from here, a very briefly held child's pose before we come to Shavasana. Stretch your arms ahead of you. Bring your forehead to the floor. Then raise your head, pick your bottom up. Now before you come into Shavasana, I want you to put the block underneath your upper back, the thoracic spine, that upper top third. So place your block on its lowest height. Sit in front of it with your feet on the floor and your knees bent. Bring your elbows down and place the bottom tips of your shoulder blades onto the center of the block. Interlace your fingers, hammock your head, and let your chest open as you press your elbows down towards the floor. About 30 more seconds here. Slightly push your tailbone towards your heel so the lower back lengthens. It's really nice to do a back bend, a chest opener before you come into Shavasana. Just sets you up for a more successful relaxation experience. So from here, using the strength of your arms, pick your head up off the floor. Then release your hands, bring your elbows down, and whatever you need to do to move the block away, do that, and then lie straight back down again for a 1 minute Shavasana. When you put your head on the floor, then lengthen your legs long, one by one, down your mat. Press your elbows down so you can move your shoulder blades towards each other. Hopefully you kind of feel the benefits of having done that lying over the block back bend here. Make sure you're not touching any of your props, that your hands and your feet are free.
Slightly lower your chin so you lengthen the back of your neck. You might also want to put something underneath the back of your head if your chin feels high. I'm going to be quiet here for a little longer. Let your breathing be natural. And let yourself be held. Now please bend your knees, one leg at a time. Bring the soles of your feet to the floor. Roll to either your left or your right side. Just go with what's called to you, what feels right. Continue to lie on your side for a few more moments. Then push down with one hand and then the other hand, and bring yourself up to sit into a cross-legged position. If you need to sit on your blanket or your block, please do. Close your eyes and sit tall. And as you sit here for a few more moments, really go into your body, and particularly around your lower back, your hips, the fronts and the backs of your legs, your upper legs in particular, and notice how they feel. And notice how you're sitting, and try and sit equally on the left and the right sides of your body, and then sit a little taller. Most importantly, notice how your body has responded to your practice. How do you feel right now? Neither assessing good or bad, just what is. And bring your hands into your heart and lower your chin so it touches your fingertips. Then release your hands and bring your hands down onto your thighs. Gently press down. Lift your chin and open your eyes. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you for joining this class. I hope that it went well for you. I chose this class in particular because I've been running quite a lot recently. So I think that doing yin yoga for people who do a lot of running or sports, cardio stuff, swimmers as well, and cyclists, it's a really nice way to get that deep inner, slow, steady stretch, particularly those of us who are perhaps a little bit more type A, a little bit more competitive. Doing a very slow practice like this is good for the mind and the spirit as well. I hope the rest of your day goes really well, and if it's the evening, I hope you have a lovely sleep. Take care, and I will see you again soon. Namaste.